Thank you for joining us tonight as we follow principal and founder of Bridge Management, David Sengkhanmee, as he gives us a first-hand look on what it's like to be a branding manager for professional and amateur athletes. That's what's coming up next on The Job. Welcome to On the Job. We have David Sengkhanmee here with us. Welcome, David. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Bridge Management, that sports marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Sure. It's building marketing programs with the use of athletes and the teams that they're affiliated with.
Okay. Sports marketing, it's pretty, okay, so it's simple. Is there anything beyond the obvious that differentiates sports marketing from regular marketing?
Yeah, I think the most compelling opportunity with sports marketing is the idea of being able to capture attention quickly because these are well-known public figures.
Okay. What's the difference exactly between working with a professional athlete and a corporate brand?
Actually, it's a very, very similar process. It's all about understanding the athlete and what their goals and objectives are and what attributes about them are marketable, and then communicating that to the right target audience. So it's very similar to working with any product or service.
You tell me about your firm representing individual athletes, and they're on a team. Is there ever any potential for conflicting interest there?
In terms of?
Well, you've got an athlete, you're representing him, and the team wants another thing. No?
No,
okay.
we haven't run into
big
to
happy
conflicts.
family
Right,
usually.
sure.
That's good. That's good. We're going to take a closer look now to see what Bridge Management is all about and what it's like to work in this industry.
Bridge Management actually started in 2008 from a friend of mine who was in the agency business and another personal friend who put the idea in my head and talked about the opportunity that there may be in not only in this market but in the overall sports industry for kind of a sports marketing agency. Instead of pursuing another job in the industry or in my field, decided that I wanted to consider starting my own business, and kind of referred back to kind of the model and business that I had considered in 2008, but decided that I wanted to take it on. And along the way, I got a lot of help from a lot of smart people that were currently part of my network, and that I was able to develop some strategic relationships with. I met David and talked about the different things that both of us were working on.
I just talked to David, and David told me about what he was doing, and it sounded interesting. And some of the things he was looking for was some of the things I had some strengths in. Started working with him, and from there the relationship blossomed.
He volunteered to do some project work for me, and as I like to call it, he pretty much interviewed for a full year by way of working directly with me on multiple projects.
I've had a lot of personal ambition to do something entrepreneurial, and this is a young company, and I like the fact that I've started with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it grow because I know it's definitely going to grow within the next few years.
In terms of starting the business name, Bridge made a whole bunch of sense to me because, in a sense, not only from the standpoint of bridging the gap between, athletes and potential opportunities, creating a two-way forum for those consumers and brands, and it just a lot of it made sense in terms of that naming convention, and as it relates to what we're trying to do, which is solidify relationships between customers and companies.
As a brand manager, I do a lot of research and look into different industries and look for opportunities for our clients, both on the athlete and on the corporate. So it's looking for insights to leverage different ideas to enhance ideas and enhance the customers or the client's experience so they can have a meaningful relationship with their audience.
There's a lot of people that would love to work in the sports industry. I think just the idea of, I mean, it just sounds fun. And on top of it, I think it's becoming a very legitimate educational field. So, I mean, in Milwaukee alone, there's programs at Marquette, Cardinal Stritch, and most recently, and then Concordia as well. So there are people that are looking for definitely opportunities to work in the sports field. It's great that there are very specific sports management programs now that the colleges and universities are providing to get students ready and focused on this type of work. But honestly, I mean, my first hire, David Fornetti was he was a double major in advertising psychology, which was a perfect fit in my mind, because I mean, obviously, part of the athlete or celebrity endorsement, draws upon that kind of underlying, psychology of advertising and wanting to kind of, connect with people on an emotional level versus just the general, decision-making process of, these are, attributes A, B, and C about the product, but it's actually, connecting from an emotional side. So I think, while having, I think the sports background is impactful, but really I think the understanding of marketing and advertising and branding of any product or service, and that understanding is going to translate well into branding an athlete.
That was an inside look at bridge management. David, I'm curious. I'd like to know more about you. Tell me about your beginnings and, what was it like growing up?
Sure. Well, my parents immigrated to the United States from Laos in 1976, and I was born a year later, the youngest of 7. Family moved around Ohio a little bit and eventually ended up in Titletown, Wisconsin. Went to elementary school just a couple of blocks away from Lambeau Field, and that's where I grew up for the most part. Okay,
so growing up, did you find any personal influences, or what really drove you to marketing as a professional path?
Well, being the youngest of 7, you're always trying to have your voice heard, so it takes some strategy to make that happen.
I was the youngest of 3. I got real loud real quick.
Sure. But outside of that, I had a really great marketing teacher in high school who got me involved with a program called DECA, and had some success there, and ended up competing at a national competition, and then felt like this was a field of study that I wanted to pursue in college.
Gotcha. I'm sure to own your own company at this point, you work really hard. What drives you? Where do you find the fire?
And just knowing that there's people out there that are doing it better, that are doing it at the highest level that's possible, and that's what I really get excited about, is learning new ways of doing business and applying that to the my small little microcosm in the entire sports industry. So that's really what drives me.
Finding the new thing, and maybe you could come up with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Inspire somebody else. Maybe there's some more security for working for a big marketing firm with an established client base. How scary is it to strike out on your own and start bridge management?
Sure, it was very frightening at times. There's a high level of security that comes with working with a large organization, and my professional background was in the highly competitive cable and telecommunications industry. And when you're working for a Fortune 500 company and have the resources, not only from the standpoint of consumer intelligence and financial resources, it's a great place to be. But there's a lot of satisfaction in building things from the ground up and getting a chance to hand select kind of your strategic partners who are going to help you meet your business objectives. So it's there's definitely pluses and minuses.
Sure, it sounds like you had a good foundation to work with, network-wise, to start. Marketing, you got to be on the current trends, especially in sports. I'm probably on your phone all the time, working as hard as you can with your own business. How do you strike a healthy balance and have a happy home life?
Sure, it's it's all about maximizing the opportunity when you're at home and you're with your family. That's what you focus on, even if it's not an even split in between personal and professional time. It's about maximizing that experience when you're there and not letting yourself get carried to another place when you're interacting with your family.
So being present, being in the moment, focus.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear it. Looking back, what would you like to tell your younger self? Any advice, if you could?
A lot, but I guess one of them would be read. I mean, I find myself now, both from the standpoint of, I find myself on my Twitter feed all the time reading from subject matter experts, following Harvard professors, following social media experts, following folks that are, professionals in the, the sports and sponsorship world. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, now we're going to take a look at one of David's first clients, Jarrett Bush of the Green Bay Packers, as they conduct a photo shoot.
The Jarrett Bush photo shoot was a way to kind of accent some of the things that Jarrett's really into outside of the Packers. So he's interested in ping pong. He's interested in snowboarding. It was a way to kind of show that subtly that he's more than just a Packer player. He has these different things, and so we were able to capture that through photography, and then we can kind of show that to different people and say, hey, he's a well-rounded person. He's not just your typical Packers player. He's got a personality and he's got these different talents.
That was Jarrett Bush from the Green Bay Packers. I remember him from that big interception, the Super Bowl a few years back. We saw in the video there, you're into their interests. You find out what they like. What are the fun ways that you do that?
Sure, it's what we're doing right now. It's all about getting, sitting down and finding out what they're all about, hearing their personal story and understanding what it is that they'd like to accomplish and helping them along the way with the resources that we have at our disposal.
And what's marketable, sure, and what makes sense to them and what they enjoy, because if everybody enjoys what they're doing, right?
Right,
it's
absolutely.
That much better. What really drew you to Jarrett, and maybe what drew him into Bridge?
Sure, Jarrett's story is an incredible one. It's a humble, winding story that took him from a small school out of Vacaville, California, to a community college, and then on to a Division I program, and then changing his style of play to make an NFL team. So he feels very fortunate to be where he is, and he's still as enthusiastic today about his job, if you will, than he was on his first day. So very humble young man, and really drew me to his personality.
Sure, yeah, well, he's a killer on special teams, so I'm sure everybody in Packerland's happy to have him. Now, watching the game, I know how hard a lot of Packer fans cheer already. Seems like you probably cheer even a little harder than the average fan, because you've got your personal interest vested on an athlete's performance.
Absolutely. Not only because we're invested from a business standpoint, but we have personal relationships with the athletes, and you're right. I mean, we cheer extra loud, and not only us, but family, friends, and anybody who's affiliated with me does. So
sure, like Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, well, yeah. It feels great. I mean, absolutely. We get a chance to, obviously, that's just one dimension of who these guys are. It's their job, but we get to know them on a personal level and some of their other passions and what they're trying to accomplish. And when we get to see it all culminate on the field, it's an exciting feeling.
I bet. Coming up, we get to see how Bridge Management gives back to the community with Larry Sanders from the Milwaukee Bucks.
About a new partnership that we've developed with our client, Milwaukee Buck, Larry Sanders, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Wisconsin. It was a natural connection that anybody who is a parent, and in Larry's case, a father to a 2-year-old son, can identify with. I mean, nothing is more frightening than the thought that your child could be afflicted with a life-threatening illness. So Larry jumped at that opportunity to engage with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and use his position of advantage to help others. And one of the first steps in developing that relationship was just a small event that we created with Larry and a young man who was battling leukemia, and it was something as simple as meeting Larry prior to one of his games and exchanging some pleasantries and just giving this young man who's a fan of basketball and a player in his own right an opportunity to see somebody who's playing his favorite game at the highest level up close and personal, and just getting a chance to have something else to distract from the health challenges that he's currently facing. So it's a really fun thing, and there's so many there's so many benefits that come with helping others. And I think from the standpoint of when you can do it in a genuine way, and it's again not forced, and you have a personal connection to it, it's a really powerful thing. And I think in this case we found that the right combination in the Make-A-Wish Foundation and Larry Sanders.
David has given of his time, his incredible talent, and his resources to really help make wishes come true. He's helping us we grant over 300 wishes a year in Wisconsin, and so David is a very key leader on our board, helping us do that. He brings a lot of marketing expertise to our board and to us as a team. My role is really overseeing all the marketing, communications, and public relations for Wisconsin, and so David has been really helpful even just to me as we do that, not to mention just making connections with the people that he knows, and even making something like this happen with Larry Sanders.
Now we're going to take a look at how amateur athletes are involved with Bridge Management. It's not just pros.
Somewhat singularly targeted audience of young men, in that 18-34 bracket. We think that it's really an opportunity to use some of these athletes to directly reach an audience that I think a lot of companies and brands find very desirable for their products and services. So we're really looking forward to really kind of exploring this opportunity and seeing if there's if it can become a strong division of our organization. My first impression of Doug when I met him was that, boy, you look too nice to be a fighter. He walked in with his trainer, and I thought the trainer was the fighter and he was like the manager, but I guess what excited me about Doug was a couple of things. I really didn't know much about the mixed martial arts, the sport, and the industry itself at all. I mean, like a lot of Asian stereotypes, was definitely, into martial arts growing up, and, me and my cousins, had a lot of battles in the backyard, and all took, Taekwondo classes, and looked up to Bruce Lee, but I didn't really get the whole MMA thing. I didn't really think that was something that I would take up as an interest, but after talking to him and, hearing his story, I mean, he's kind of had an unorthodox approach to, I guess, entry into the sport, into the industry, I guess, if you will, because he's by and large a really normal guy. What really struck me about Doug was that he's a finance manager by day. He's has 3 lovely daughters that he absolutely adores. He's not, again, some of the stereotypes of the sport. I mean, he's a Christian. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He's just kind of a very straight-laced guy for being, a fighter.
I started out, I was tough. I mean, I like fighting. I was probably doing an hour a day, maybe 3-4 days a week, and I had a couple fights, were very successful. Then I met a guy who had been training, dedicated himself a little more to the sport, and I seen the commitment level difference, and being tough wasn't enough. I didn't get stopped, but definitely got controlled in the fight. So from that point on, I started to commit myself a lot more. Now I train 5 to 6 days a week, 2-3 hours a day. Since I came to Red Schaefer MMA with my head coach, Solo Acosta, we amped it up, and we know what it takes to be the best. We train with the best, and I'm definitely ready for the next level of any competition.
When we're talking about, marketing and branding Doug and connecting him with companies and brands that make sense, it's a whole different approach, because these athletes aren't well funded by large, leagues and teams with deep pockets. These guys largely either are funding it through family and friends or by themselves. So every dollar that comes in by way of a sponsorship is so much more meaningful to their ability to continue to train in their sport. So, for instance, a person like Doug, he's, some of the expenses outside of a trainer, he's pays for a massage therapist, a chiropractor. He has to have his vision checked, regularly. He has to get blood work done, and that all of those costs aren't covered by a team or a governing body. It's all his responsibility to go out and get. So I think it creates an incredible opportunity from a local standpoint to reach out to companies who want to be part of a story, not just I think it's not so much statistics or, that you are the, current, title holder or whatnot. It's more about, helping, somebody, a hometown guy kind of reach his dream. And I think that's where kind of some of the excitement that comes in from our team is the idea that we could be part of it from the very beginning stages of, really getting to the highest level of the game and becoming a professional in his sport.
Outside of this, I have a good family support system. I have family that fight, so it's good kind of looking up to them, Anthony Pettis, Sergio Pettis, and watching what they're doing in the support. It keeps you grounded though, but they're very humble guys. It's just keeping the right head on your shoulder. I'm not in the sport to just beat guys up and have bloody fights and that type of thing. I love competing. It's all about building the sport and bettering yourself, and I love martial arts. Going back to Bruce Lee and those types of guys. I'm all in.
Thank you for joining us tonight on The Job. Thank you, David, for being here. A lot more I'd like to talk to you about.
Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. Thanks you for watching at home, and good night.